Hello everybody, it's Lion from lionbricks.com. In the first update I built some roads, in the last update I built some more roads, and in today's video we're going to start some buildings and pretend it's not actually about building more roads. Since the last video I did order a couple of parts which I used to finish off all of the details that I wasn't able to finish in the previous updates. Off camera, I also cleaned up the road junction along one of the main roads along the bottom of the layout. I added in the correct road markings, and as you can see I also added in this really sort of intricate corner junction which you'll see will come in handy later on when I incorporate the 45-degree angle road. The first thing I'm building for this update is the signals for the railway crossing. These are based off of the UK design, as this for the most part is going to be a kind of UK orientated layout since that is where I live. And yeah, it's pretty much just a pole, and then we've got this fairly large kind of rectangular shape with white and red checkered pattern around the outside and the 3 red lights in the middle. I also built some gates, and I used a fairly interesting technique where you place tiles on top of hands, which allows you to fit parts on the underside of plates, which is what allowed me to create the design here. And it is also functioning, it does move up and down, and so I placed these all into the layout, and I think it instantly makes the railway crossings much more recognisable. As you can see in this demonstration, they do move up. They're a little bit delicate, but this is mostly a display layout, so I don't mind. In the future, if I do add lights and power to the city, I may also motorise this, because I know that is something a lot of people are going to suggest. It's also worth mentioning that I did move the entire layout 4 studs to the right, just so that I had a little bit more space to build my buildings, because I decided 20 studs was much better than 16. We now move on to the very first building that I'm putting in this city layout. I plan to make them all custom, however some of them may be based off of modulars in the future, such as the bank. This right here is going to be an antique shop, and I've got quite a lot of inspiration for the ground floor, however I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do above that. So for this building in this update we're only going to be building the ground floor. It's a really cute building, it's made in reddish brown for the most part, and it's also got some dark tan, so it's got a very vintage old looking style which I think matches the theme of what the building is actually going to be. It's got 2 large shop front windows at the front, and then I've got that nice door set back behind some steps, and since it does get raised by those steps, as you will have seen in the beginning, I actually cut out most of the flooring that I put in the previous update and raised that up later on, so that I don't have 2 layers of floors, which would be a waste of parts, because of course when building a layout this size you do want to save as many pieces as you can. It has quite a lot of details to it, including that little handrail along the side. You may have seen something similar to this before. This is a design that I based off of an image I found on Google Images a very long time ago, but to be honest, a lot of people build this kind of style because it's very common in the real world, and yeah, it's basically just something you'll see in all kinds of different shapes and colours. At the moment, all of the other sides are just plain bricks. I imagine I may texture this up a little bit in the future, but in general there won't be any windows on the ground floors of the buildings next to the railway, but later on above that there may be a few windows to look down on the railway, but I just think it would look a little bit unrealistic to have a window next to a train track. Before we move on to the next building, I decided to tackle the 45-degree angle road, which is a much anticipated section of the city layout. I started off by making a small section of road that I can fit into the space we've already got, and you'll notice that there is a 45-degree angle on one side of the road where I used 1x2 inverted slopes alternating between a slope and a brick. That goes all the way along one edge, and that allows me to actually fit another section to it in the future in sort of reverse, and they fit together perfectly, which is what allows me to create the 45-degree angle. This technique is almost perfect, however there was one tiny flaw that I didn't notice, and that was that just in this very corner, as you can see, there is a tiny triangle of doom that's sticking out from this slope, and unfortunately it means I cannot put a 1x1 plate in that spot. So we've got a bit of a hole. I'm probably going to figure out a technique to fill that in the future, but right now I'm just going to leave that open. Let me know if you've got any ingenious solutions for that, but at the end of the day it could just be a drain or a pothole, so I don't think it's too big of a deal. I then moved on to finishing off the other corner. This was a little bit more tricky. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I kind of roughly figured out the point that I needed to turn at, and then I just started creating the same angle on this side of the road once again by finishing off the rough edge that I'd left over from last time. You can see there's a lot of trial and error here. I'm ripping bits out, putting bits in, trying to make it as efficient as possible and just correcting that entire edge. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite perfect. It was half a plate off, so that meant I had a 2-plate gap in between the road and the railway, and I decided to fill this just by simply fitting on a small strip of road, which you can't see anyway, so I'm actually very pleased with how this turned out. The only downside to this is that I could not use my techniques to actually fit this onto the road, so it's just going to have to kind of be balanced in there for now. In the end, I think this turned out absolutely fantastic. The city already looks so much more intricate and just full, and I really love how this road looks in the layout. I think the corners realistically would be fairly easy to turn in a car. Obviously it's not a curved road. I could have done a kind of curved road, but the reason I decided to go with this and the reason I decided to go with a 45-degree angle is because it makes building the rest of the city much easier in the future, since straight angles are much easier to incorporate than a curved angle. I also built one section of the pavement to one side, however in the end I decided to leave all of that to a future update, since there are some more tricky angles I need to figure out in my own time. I was just about to move on to the next building and I realised I can't even build bricks in a straight line, so I had to fix that, and I also realised that I actually built the roads a little bit incorrectly last time, and I found a way to make it look a little bit better, so I did that with both of the roads and then I was ready to move on. I haven't decided what this building is yet. Again, this is inspired by a similar design I found online, and it pretty much uses these masonry bricks along the front of the build with lots of plates in between dividing it up. I think it's a very cool look, and I've got some black windows and doors with these nice arches and quite a few details on the front, so I think it's a very pretty build, but I haven't actually decided what it's going to be yet. The reason I'm only going to be building the facade of the building in this video is because I think realistically I would finish this off with tan bricks, but I want to keep my tan bricks for a future building that I'm doing later on, since that's more of a higher priority than this build, so I'll probably finish this off in the future. Some of the sections were built off-site on my desk, and as I was building the roof I decided to use minifigure legs as a very interesting detail along the top rim of the roof. I actually made a video showing you how you can dismantle minifigures and ways you can use the part, so I definitely recommend watching that video. But this is yet again another way of using the leg piece. It's such an intricate part and I definitely want to use it more in the future. But yeah, as you can see, I haven't got all of the parts that I need to finish off this build, so I thought I'd go ahead and just leave it there. But that is all I have for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like and a comment, and don't forget to leave your suggestions for this city down in the comment section below, as I do enjoy reading them and I do hope to incorporate them in the future. But until next time, thanks for watching.